Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. A big welcome to all of you. My name is Laura, and I'm delighted that you are joining us for today's ESPC community webinar. Today I am joined by the one and only Hans Brender, or otherwise known as Mr. OneDrive. And today Hans will talk to you guys about OneDrive Group Policies for smallest companies. So we love hearing what you guys have to say. So remember to join in on the conversation about today's webinar and more on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is #ESPC23. Tweet us, at us, and tell us what you learned. Don't forget to check out our resource centre, which is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. You can access and view the Resource Centre by visiting our website, sharepointeurope.com, and clicking the Content tab at the top. Don't let the learning stop here. Continue to keep up and stay ahead by joining us for our next webinar, which is called Unlocking the Power of Microsoft Syntax, Revolutionizing Content Services in the Modern Workspace with Joanne Klein, which takes place next Tuesday, August 15th from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. CEST. You can find out more information on this webinar at sharepointeurope.com/register for webinars. Are you looking to embark on a transformative journey into the world of Microsoft 365 and Azure? Well, at ESPC, cutting-edge technology tutorials await to change the way you work. From conquering corporate communications challenges to mastering infrastructure automation, these tutorials offer a trove of knowledge that will unlock the true potential of Microsoft tools and technologies. We are thrilled to announce 10 incredible deep dive tutorials for ESPC 23. Topics include Microsoft 365, Microsoft Identity Platform, AI in Azure, ChatGPT, Power Apps and Power Automate, Purview, and much, much more. If you think that you would benefit from one of these tutorials at ESPC 23, then act fast and secure your tickets today before ticket prices increase and tutorials sell out. You can visit sharepointeurope.com/pricing to find out more about ticket prices and sharepointeurope.com/ESPC23 tutorials to find out more about the tutorials. You can now watch the EPPC 23 showreel video from Dublin last June. Last month, over 1,200 Power Platform professionals gathered in Dublin for the European Power Platform Conference 2023. Check out our amazing showreel video full of conference highlights from Dublin. Next year, we're taking EPPC to Brussels. You can join over 1,500 of your professional peers and expect world-class expert guidance to help you succeed in your projects and career. And of course, not to forget an unforgettable experience in the beautiful city of Brussels. You can register your interest for the European Power Platform Conference next year in Brussels at sharepointeurope.com/European Power Platform Conference. Europe's premier Microsoft 365 and Azure Technologies Conference occurs this November, the 27th to the 30th in Amsterdam. With access to over 100 world-class speakers and over 120 expert sessions, there is endless knowledge to gain at ESPC 23. As we know, Microsoft technologies are advancing rapidly, so stay in the know and get ahead by attending ESPC and hear from the greatest on the very latest. Get your early bird discounted tickets for ESPC 23 in Amsterdam now before prices increase. Join us and learn to better master Microsoft 365 and Azure. Again, you can visit sharepointeurope.com to secure your tickets at this discounted price. So after the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any question that you might have into the questions window. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will also be recorded and added to the Resource Centre, where you will be notified by email when it becomes available. And now I'm going to pass you over to today's webinar presenter, Hans. Hello, Hans.
Hello. Welcome for the show with a lot of slides and a lot of demo on this Thursday. And before lunch, it's a good time. After lunch, it's not so good. You have to wake up all the people, and we have to see. I have to show you my screen, so you see hopefully the screen, and then I will start about this OneDrive Group Policy also for small and smallest companies. So my name is Hans, and that means I'm an MVP since 11 years. You find so many public things via email. You can connect with all the stuff, connect error, but sometimes I have no time. So that's a thing that you have to wait. Sometimes it's very quick. You can do a blog. You can follow me on Twitter and ask there. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me on these channels there. So normally I come to companies and do storyteller sessions. In the old days, we have to say workshop, but most of the time I speak like this one. I speak and give you all the information what you have in there. So that means I have a blog with over 850 blog posts about OneDrive, 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 OneDrive. I do it a long time. Still there was there, and I do it although in different areas in Germany. I have an old event have had in Berlin. I was on the build and have presented things I will show you later at the end. And also in Copenhagen, the ESPC 22, and although in Kinshasa, Vienna, or Chicago, wherever you find. That's a completely stuff I have to present. If I should do that, I need 2 days. So we have to look a little bit in the early that we only have some small things. And that means, okay, only this one I will show you. We need these things, only a small portion. If you see restriction limit, it's 1 hour normally. I have to talk about that. Therefore, it takes time. We did only a short version today. And we will start about files on demand, about OneDrive, storage sense, group policies all about, and also with a sync admin report. But first, we have to know how does it work. Group policies works not on a OneDrive home. It works in OneDrive for business because it's for companies made. But if you're a small company and you do not have any possibilities, you see what's coming up, and we have to look where are these group policies to find. Because normally you go to Microsoft and say, okay, I need some group policies, and they show you a site where you can download them. Not with the OneDrive group policies. The OneDrive group policies comes automatically with each update. With each update means, okay, today, if you're in this special ring, you have to know OneDrive Insider is twice a week. Production, I say 14 days, and not only once. And then we have deferred ring, that's a late one, that comes only 4 times a year. And inside of all this, we have 16 languages. We also see where it's located. If you have it, that completely the stuff, you see that it's come, we see users, your username, app data, local Microsoft OneDrive version, and then you see a folder, ADM, and then you find all these group policies. We show it later, we do a live demo about that. It can also a different one, if you have it installed inside the program files, then you see here the version, after the version number, there is also an ADM folder. If you have, you can only establish it 1 or 2 or the third one. If you have a 64-bit version, you see it's not inside program files x86. Now it's in crowd with program files. That's the 64-bit version. And we have it also for the things, but most of them I look for, not for the Macintosh users or something. I will show you today the Windows version. So that's all the group policies. I give the group policies some pictures, and you see, if you see B2B and an X, that means, okay, this group policy means to understand that you will have no business to other parties. So you can have it as an administrator. That's a complexity thing. We have to look about that. Sometimes you have also and have to look where it comes from. So you see here some misdescription on learn.microsoft.com. All group policies are there, and you have to show that, and I click on it and will show you this button to see OneDrive policies, and you see all the stuff, and you see here the list of all group policies by string ID. Why by string ID? Microsoft has made some errors. Group policies are made by Windows. The Windows guys make a group policy, is working on Windows, but the production group has all those things, but the Windows people are translate this stuff from English to other languages. This side is done by Microsoft, and that's for the PG of OneDrive, and they're translated too. So at the beginning, we have an absolutely horror. I started with German, and none of these 42 group policies will work because 2 times translated is not that good. So I found with Microsoft the information, therefore they call me Mr. OneDrive. I found the information that inside the list, and I'll show you later on, also in the slides, they have a list ID, and that list ID is an ADML file. And the ADML file is also a list ID where this is there in an English version, allows syncing OneDrive accounts for only specific organization. And if you change that one, you see that then will come in Germany, only for you to show a little bit. It's the same that we have all the same here. It's a long list. And it's the same here, allow tenant list. And here is a German description. Now it works. But the thing is that we have to look, there are some new things, and they are 9 months late. Sometimes I have no idea what I tell you. It's not my thing that I have a description for different string IDs. They are not on page. You see that. You have also the link. You got the PowerPoint if you want to have it at the end. So we have to look at the thing. And sometimes the group policies, it's an easy part. If you are in a company, you have one group policy that called here, prevent users from syncing personal OneDrive accounts. Why you should use that? You should use it also in a small company because you have no control about that. Mid-sized companies or enterprise companies always say it's not your personal. Personal is your stuff. You can have it on your PC at home, and the other ones, it's different. That's OneDrive for business, and then you have all this stuff. With this one, the user configuration, because it's going to the user, and the string ID you see here is disable personal sync. On this PowerPoint slide, you can click on that and you come directly to that what I have showed you 1 minute before. So you will see also here the German ones, and then it's possible. But we have a little bit more. Inside the group policies, you also see what's happened. What can you do? And you see some information I got enabled that's not on the page on Microsoft. So, for example, the old GPO name, they have it in the past. And you see, the old name was prevent users from synchronizing personal OneDrive account, prevent users from syncing personal OneDrive accounts. So that's synchronizing, syncing, but sometimes you have to look for these small changes that will happen. Another company, another group policy, enable things health reporting for OneDrive. You can do that if you have a license for that. That means, okay, it comes not with all license, and I will show you what's happened. It's a computer configuration, and it says you can enable this sync admin reports, an easy part. You see, although that happens, what you should do here later on, we do not have to go in details here, replace. It was an old command sync admin reports. Now it's a new one because the old you have had some information additional, but now you have it. This side, and we show you in the first demo, will show you if any of your customers has a problem with syncing. But it takes a little bit. Sometimes in the small, it's not so interesting. You see it here. Normally, you roll it out via Endpoint Manager or System Center, Configuration Manager, or Intune. But this costs money, and we want to have it not with this money. And we say it, okay, we have a company or department with sales, and we do it also for finance or marketing, whatever you have in your area. And then it means, okay, after that, this computers and the users from these computers will report to the admin center automatically, and you see that. Means you see here, that's a German version, but anyway, you see that they have some problems or do not have some problems. So that's the thing. We cannot do that. We use the local group policy editor today, and we will show you how that it works. You see here the health reporting is done there, and you see these names is like the group policies we will have. If you see also detail, then you see there are always 3 status: not configured, enabled, and disabled. So the thing is, if it's not, sometimes you have to look inside the information, what's happened if you have enabled or disabled. If you have first enabled, and normally it comes with not configured, and that's a standard. And if you enable that and later on, no, I do not want that anymore, you have to disable it. And you see, although where it's happened, it lost all Windows Server, Windows 10, version 1709, Windows 11, that's the same. And all the other versions, you will have also a Windows Server 2019 and so on. So Tempsim, yes, if you want to have it on a Windows Server, but keep in mind, you must be logged on if it works. All group policies not working automatically. So now we see here the English side, OneDrive sync calls, and you see 38% of devices have sync errors. So we have to look for that. That's only a small company. And you see here is an error. Here is an error too, and another error. And you can click on that and get a detailed version for all these stuff. Means this company has, with this user and this device, with this operating system, has an error, and you say this item may contain characters that aren't allowed. Okay, that's for me. And all those, you have to look what is not allowed. You have to look sometimes where the information comes from. The simple is you have to look for that, but it's easier if you are preferring the users do not have any idea that's a department, you have an error, and that was this error I can create automatically. That means if you do and save a file, normally you cannot do that, and save a file with a space at the beginning, it comes to this error. That's not allowed. But if you can do that, then you see the error comes up here in the sync details. You can also see if you have a bigger company that are more details in there and collected together, what errors are there. And that means you see all this, but we want to have it green. So looking for that, we want to see this stuff. And I have here a Windows 11 machine. And the first thing is you have to look, where does it come from? The thing is, we see that in the Office configuration. Here we have it. You see the Office M365 Apps Admin Center. Normally, the user do not have it. If you are an admin, you see these parts, and you see Office synchronization. That's the German part. But anyway, if German are things, sometimes are present in Germany, but sometimes are print. And I collect at sometimes to switch, and sometimes it goes not so far away. You can switch to the things for the devices, and you see no problems are there. So that's the thing that we can have. That's my company. I only have some small company, and therefore only this small portions of users. I run it, although on each machine, not with this one. I look at it in different ways, but what we will do, how can we have these information here? So that's the information we can collect during this one. That's the admin center. You find it as config.office.com in the OneDrive, and then you are here and you find some more information, but only for the admins. That part is not for the users. I really want to say that. Okay, going back to the slides. I have to look where I was. I was there. Second demo. Right. Let me switch it here. And can I switch? That was my first demo. The other one is a little bit complicated. So otherwise, there are so many group policies you have to know. I only gave a quick access, and you find all the information here in the slides, exclude specific kind of files being uploaded. So that's a computer configuration, not for the user of each device. If you have some people working on one device, one girl or man in the morning and the other one at the afternoon, so therefore it works for both. It's a computer configuration. That means you can exclude files for syncing into the cloud from your device. That's an easy part. You have to look for that. That works only on the machine, and it's implemented as a wildcard. So you have to implement it with star point PST or star sales states, star text. That means that there are different ones. So you have in this one, there is a text file we do not want to sync where the name sales is in it. You have to learn the wildcard characteristic, but it do not work for Office files. You have to know that. That's not for docs, not for Word files, Excel files, or PowerPoint. Upload via browser is always possible, but if you exclude one, you see here that is the symbol that you see in your Explorer. Now some files more, and you see it now if it comes. Here the PPTX, it makes no sense because PPTX will sync always. Yeah, this is not an Office file that works although, and here it's although work, and DOCX will also not work for you. And therefore you can have it, and it's although done for OneDrive Personal. If you still have OneDrive Personal, you should not have that, because you have no control about that. I mentioned it before, but you see it here that the information is always here. It works also for that one. So for examples, if you have these group policies and you have inserted here as an Versuch, try in German, in English, and that means if you have a file, that means Versuch txt, it will plugged. It will not goes up to the cloud. And although the MDB, that's an access file, an old one, it's not Office, it will be blocked. But you see here also, if it's a Word on Excel, it will be synced. No control about that. The next one is a little bit complexer. That means, okay, you have to see when it's synced and when it's not synced. And although the last one means you see all the stuff, it's synced in OneDrive for Business, it's synced with OneDrive Personal, it's synced also or disabled to sync about that in SharePoint document libraries, and also shared with me and all the other stuff. And you see here the files when you have such things implemented that should not be uploaded. You can have it only on a file basis, not on a folder, and it's not a security feature, but sometimes for a machine, or sometimes you have a program that writes something out, log files and so on, and you do not want to have it, you can block these files to go it up. And the best one of all these stuff, of all group policies, was the establishment of use OneDrive files on demand. So you have to know only that's a computer configuration. If you have it in one, as I said before, in a computer configuration, it works for all stuff. And that means, you see, in the old things, we have this one. That means the red line is a classic sync. It syncs all the stuff. If you are new, comes to a company from SharePoint or something else, and it comes all down and all the files were there. That means that's horrible for sometimes these big ones, and after files on demand was established, you have only a small portion. That comes with Windows 10 1709. Yes, nobody used that as such old things, but anyway, you have it. And I have to train it a little bit what's happened. You see several symbols in the Explorer. Normally in NTFS, and this is simplified stuff, you see a file name, you see a type of file, it's a Word file, it's a document, or whatever. You see a picture for offline. You see also the attributes. You don't see that, but the attributes are there. Then you don't see it, creation date, last access date, and modification date. And you always have a pointer to the real content, simplified. Means if you have the content there, then you have the symbol local available or always available. And that's the most important thing. Local available and always available are different. If I say, okay, I want to free up space, it makes that. Then you have cloud only. That means the space for the content is distributed. If you click on this file, it makes it down and comes again to this one and this one. So there are some possibilities, some group policies, also for OneDrive, that make automatically clear up some space. And that's complicated, but anyway, it do always do that with this character. If you have it always available, if you say, I need that always. In Germany, we do not have any good connections in the trains and so on. And therefore, if I go to a customer or run with the train, then I say this PowerPoint and this file, I do it always available. Because otherwise, I have storage sense. That's a name. The group policy is activated, and after 3 days, it says, okay, put it away. It's only in this, only in the cloud, and I have to click on it, and that's not possible. Therefore, it's there. So looking for that, we can split that and look for that. Here you see all three symbols: cloud only, local available, always available. And that's inside the OneDrive, and you see all that inside the Explorer. So the thing is that we have to see what is there, and there are three new attributes, only for you to know that very, very quick. You see, you can have and change the attribute and means what's happened. If you have always available with a file, you can change it not via, you can change it by hand in the Explorer, but sometimes you have to do it with a script or something else. That means the attribute and the file name, and then -p for this guy and +u makes out of the always available to cloud only available. And there are other things I showed you here, and you see that also in the slide deck. You can experiment when you want to do that. That's the same thing we have also for OneDrive files on demand, refresh for macOS. You have to know that. Sometimes you also have to say, okay, users are sometimes press the button on the wrong side and say delete. And then it's not good, because that may be 500,000, 20,000 files. Therefore, you have a OneDrive group policy require users to confirm large databases, large delete operations. And that's a good thing for me to have to say, okay, you have as a user to say, okay, I have to add a second one. He do not say delete it automatically. You press the delete button, and normally, okay, I want to go to vacation. I press my thumb, and then I go out and I'm in vacation. No, you have to do and press the button again. That it's also, you see, remove files from all locations. I have done it with a 10 and with more than 10, because I use so often surfaces, and sometimes you can work with the hand, and that could be that I also have to delete something. Therefore, I have to press again. And there is also a GPO that works in this area, prompt users when they delete OneDrive files on their local computer. So therefore, you have to know that there are group policies. So sometimes I told you there are 3 rings. The OneDrive will be updated automatically. You do not have to check it. If you check it on 10 machines in your company, you find 10 different versions. No, 2 different versions or so on, because each machine do it to a different time. That means if you are there, listen, millions of computers want to have an update. And if we say, okay, on Monday we will get a new update, the server will crash. So there's an intelligent thing. That means, yes, even if you have 2 computers on the same LAN or VLAN, and you have established at the same time, it will be different. That means one on the machine takes it on Monday, the other one maybe on Wednesday, or it takes up to a week that this will come up. So you have not control about that, leave it, that it's okay. But generally, we have to say there are more possibilities, because you have to say which ring we want to have. There's a ring Microsoft internal, there are more rings internal, but anyway, a preview that comes now twice a week, a production comes more often, not less often, only 2 times a month, and deferred ring 4 times in the year. So normally you should have it in production. You as an administrator should set your ring system as a preview. You see the new things that will comes up, but they have changed and so on. But that makes it a little bit time, and I could go over. Prompt users when they delete multiple OneDrive files on their local computer. Then I have to say, okay, when they delete it, it's the second one, we have to show that. And so all things come together, and I say, okay, we want to look also for storage sense policies. Storage sense is very interesting. Personally, you have to do it in different ways, but one is very, very interesting. The first one, you have to say, allow storage sense global, that's the switch on, switch off. Yeah? The second one, what's very interesting, is configure storage sense cloud content dehydration threshold. Completely named dehydration. If I change it in German language, absolutely nothing medicine means. He looks with a different period, with the cadence, that's the third one, configure storage sense cadence. How often should he made and how often, that is one, and how many days it would delay if nobody is changing anything on this computer, on this file, only local available. That's a very interesting part, but we have to look for that later on. Seed, okay, we can have it on to address. I also have to say, okay, configure storage sense, as I mentioned before, what's happened there, and we have to look. So my 10 group policies I want to have, it depends on what we will show. I have showed it at the Ignite in Orlando, where 30,000 people comes up, and have a lot of people in the cinema where I present this. And that means here storage sense are very, very important. I use it for temporary files on systems. Recycle bin you can use, but you have to inform the customers. That means that clear your local recycle on the machine. Download files, it's also, you have to inform your customers. Otherwise, it's not good to take them. I park all the files there, but OneDrive dehydrate, as I mentioned before. And the other one is their files on demand is very things, and all others you can, and depends on the situation, what you want, you have to look for that. But the thing is, where does it come? You see here all the information I put it where. That means allow storage global. That's an on switch. You see it also in the Windows 10 or Windows 11 machine. And although this cadence, how often during low and free space and so on, you see that information. You can later show it. We want to show it what we will do later on. And although the dehydration will work there, and that means we see all these things. But how do we establish that will come these group policies on each area if you do not have the time? You can't handle that, and therefore we go in there. First, we have to look, where is my OneDrive? Where is my installation? You see that, you don't see that OneDrive, you don't see it in the settings. It says not where it's installed. Therefore, I need here the PowerPoint. But I make a lot of a little bit work for you and click the button here. Hopefully, I see that. Okay, it comes up. And you see on this machine, local disk program files means the 64-bit version. We see that here also. Settings, about, and you see here that's a build version. That's 23158.073 in 64-bit. And you see on the insider, I have set this in the past. That is set that I get it in an insider version. And you as a user, that's a normal user, what I will show you, you cannot change it because the group policy is higher. The user do not have to change several things. It's there. So we see that. But on the other one, I'll make it a little bit bigger, we have to look for and click on the current version. This changed all the way. You see that's the date modified when the new OneDrive comes up. That means he has looked today at 6:30, but it's although, yes, I was opening that these days, but although the last version was at 0808. You see that has changed, but we have to look inside. If we click on it, we see a lot of language versions. You have it in 16 languages, and that means a lot of files. Not all languages are there, but our ADM, that's important for us, what we need today. You see all the stuff. Here are the German ones, and here that's US ones. And now we have to look, where does we have to move manually? Manually means that is established and we can work. Before you do not find it inside your group policy editor. What we have to say, group policy, and you see it's an English version, perfect. And normally in admins, here you see OneDrive. If you do not see the OneDrive, you do not have established these files. You do it once. Each version brings a new one, but you do not have to check it. Sometimes you have to check it, but not always. So that means we have to look, and means we have to have a destination. The destination where we have to do that is for you on your machine in the policy definitions. So the policy definition is Windows PC, local disk, Windows policy definitions. Yes. And here you see the ADMX files. There are a lot of them automatically installed. We also have here, this machine has 2 languages. Therefore, I have a US version and a German version. So we have to look what we will do. The first is we have to copy this guy, and you have to say copy. That means here, go to destination, right click, paste, replace. I have one installed. Yes, therefore I have to replace with a newer one and then continue. Let's see, okay, now it's installed with this version. We have to go up and have to go first to the US version for the ADML files. I will tell you after the first things, I will tell you what happened there. Therefore, we have to look for that. So the ADML file, this one is the US version. So we have to copy that one, not only this one, copy and go to destination, that's US version, right click, insert, replace the ADML files. You see always what happened, replace, yes, and have to continue for writes, and then it's there. Now we have it done for this area, but we have to go up and I have to say policy definition for the German ones, if you want to do that. Why? If you have 2 languages, then you have to do it. Normally you have only 1 language, and we have to see that. So the policy definitions, now we have to go to the German version, and that's a German ADML file. I also have to say copy that, go to definition. Now we're in the German version, go here and say, okay, I want to copy that here, replace, continue, done. That's the first thing what we have to do. And that's all for this one. And now we can start, as I mentioned before, the group policy with the newest version. So now you see in OneDrive, and I make it a little bit bigger that you can show them, you see something is enabled and you see all the information. That means that's an English part, because today we want to show it in English. And here you see use OneDrive files on demand. Normally you have 3 status, not configured, enabled, and disabled. I want to have it enabled, therefore you find here the information. And you find the description in US language, because that's an ADML package from US. So the next one, enable sync health reporting. I also have to say, yes, I want to install it. Done. And you see all the other one, the excluded files, and it's enabled. And I show you here when you look ink and test.txt. The other ones came out of another in the shows, but here you see what you can have for the information. All test.txt will not upload it, and all link files will also not upload it. Perfect. That's also done, and so on. And you will do all these things, although the set update ring, and you see here it's enable, and you see it's an insider's version, although the production version or deferred version. That's an easy part to do that. But what's happened if I have done it here? We have also the user configuration, we have also the administrative parts, and you see the OneDrive here, and here's, although there is one thing disabled, you can also have that. That means configure automatically site things, automatically sites that automatically show you if you have a new onboarding member, and you see that it is working for marketing and you have a marketing side, you can have that automatically. It's a little bit complicated, but you can do that. But you do not should use it. Therefore, I have it disabled. That's the future. This year will change. That we should not use this one, we should other things. And then we will have that. It will end at next year. But I told you now it will change. We should not do that anymore. Therefore, okay, if we have done what we have done with the group policy, it runs in the registry. In the registry, you will see although all this stuff will be there and we can have it here. And before I will show you, there are some possibilities where you have to look for that. The first one is HKLM, local machine software policies, Microsoft OneDrive. You find here some words, what's interesting. Yeah, and here find your list. What we have done is in the list here, and that means we can have it. What we later do, we look for the other parts, although we have to export this stuff. If we here in the rate, we say for our thing to make it possible to all of your machines in your small company, export this stuff. And you see here, there is something, I have done it before, and you see all these rec files we found here in this folder, and that's okay. The second one is, that's what local machine. I told you, sometimes local machine, sometimes user. And that means here, although we have it for current users, and there are a lot of stuff what we have here in OneDrive. And that should be also transferred. You see here some data that will be there, but you can also have it here and say, okay, I want to use it and make also an export of the stuff. The same. Take it in different file names. One is the one thing and the other one is the other thing. And also for storage sense, that could be a little bit tricky here because you don't find it very easy. Therefore, computer config, software, Microsoft Windows, current version, storage sense, parameter, storage policy. And you find here some numbers. It's not so easy to understand. Storage sense imperfect, but you can also make it here and export this stuff. If you have done that, we can also look what we have there. So for this one means that we have it in, where is my numbers? My complete stuff here in these folders. And now I do not want to have to present a rec. Rec will automatically open and would insert it on this machine. I have it here and I put together completely stuff. Means I open it, but I will open it with a notepad. And then you see that's the export of the first thing, the export of the second thing, and that's the storage policy that you find it. That's an easy part. I put it together. The first one writes here, the first line that must be there. And then you see the key where it starts and the entries. And then you can have a space and take from the second one and have it also there. And then take a space from the third one that was a storage policy with storage sense parameters and have it there. You can also have space history that's inside of the stuff. And then you have all things together. Put it on a disk. This one is together and put it on a disk, not on a disk, put it on a stick. And now you can go for each person and look and go, I need 5 minutes, and then we can check it. How does it work? 5 minutes for you to go away, take a coffee, please. Okay, you go in, you need admin rights, you go in there, take the machine, insert the stick and say, okay, open the registry and or put on the rec data here, and it would ask you, hey, can I insert that? Yes. And if it's done, reboot the machine. People can come from the cafe back and can work on a machine and has now these rules on that. You do that on the next machine, next machine, next machine, next machine. It's not a good thing to have it for 50 machines. then you should try a program like Intune or something. It costs a little bit of money, but if you have only 3 or 4 machines, you can try it. Also for test purposes, if you see how it works. That's the thing. We have some slides more for the different ones. So this one means we have to start here, and I have to start there. And you see that. Give me just a second because it's too big on my second monitor. So here we have the OneDrive HTML file. And you see here that what we have seen in the group policy editor. So the yellow page is here what's yellow in there. The blue is what's here blue. So you see the white is a description of the file. And you see here the string ID, files on demand enabled. That's red. That's very important for us. And you see the information is here. Use OneDrive files on demand. Now I switch to a German version, and you have to look for the string ID and here the yellow part. Wow, that's the same. The text is a little bit longer. German is a long sentence language, yes. And you see the files on demand. I go back and now again, and you see here now OneDrive files bei Bedarf verwenden, OneDrive Dateien. That's a German language, and although the language here is the only components what filled it together with all languages is here. Therefore, you have to use the right one. So talking a little bit, what we have is about the critical numbers. So sometimes the people come to me and say, hey, we have problems, it doesn't work, it's buggy, da. No, you have too much numbers, too much files. Not the gigabytes, that aren't interesting. It can also small, 300,000 pictures, and it will not work. Sync is limited to 300,000. Therefore, you have to look. There are some restriction limits, and you have to look also. At the end, you will see one click. There are we take 3, I think. That's are some limitations and also some troubleshooting tips what you can have. Take one thing. How many OneDrive accounts you can have? OneDrive accounts? Yes. I have on one machine 4 OneDrive accounts to different customers. I work for them. Therefore, yes, not only. It means 9. 9 is the number. The last one, the 10th, is your OneDrive personal. If you are allowed to do that, you should not. Sometimes people have to say, hey, you can copy one from that to the other, and there's no control in your admins. In bigger companies, it's never allowed. Copy for the second one, number of items to sync or copy. Yeah, oh, right, we have to look for that. Number of items, that was the 300,000 numbers. There are other items with sync of copy. How do you sync? How give you the information up and so on? You have to leave and look for the information then. And also only sync what you need. You should work with add a shortcut to OneDrive. Add shortcut to OneDrive. That is the possibility that have a lot. That's the future for this stuff. Okay. But if you have done that, here is the file restriction unlimited. I click on it and you see the information, what happens. Here, all the information are there completely. We have to look here, the file restrictions, the limitations, and the troubleshooting. Listen, this file is more, or this side is more important. That comes in support from Microsoft. And you always have to look for them because they change it. At 1st of May, they had some update made. So you see, not so often, but you have to know, hey, he changed something in this area. Good. Some recommendations. Sometimes you have to look what's happened, and we have also for questions and think what the answers. Recommendations here, you have to look for the community blog. That's very interesting. If you go there, you find the newest information from Microsoft directly, but sometimes you have to look at my articles in German or English, and also a roadmap, what comes up. Sometimes it's very interesting. And yet for unit administrator, we see a lot of information there. If you say, okay, about OneDrive, there are 39, and you see July, June, April, that goes up to December 2023. So listen and look for that. And there are two more things. Sometimes the people say, okay, my users, I have no idea and speaking to that, and using Teams. If you're using Teams, you can have and install a bot. That's a community bot for OneDrive. So I have primed my main with two other MVPs, and they say to me, we want to digitize my knowledge, and I give the information inside the community bot. It costs nothing. It must be installed. That is okay, but it's also an easy part. And then you can talk to the bot like me. So he has more information. Sometimes he has the most important for the users. It's for the users. It's not only for the admins. Admins also can show what happens there. That's a community bot. And you also see here a link to a video of what Microsoft is saying about that from the build 2022. And you see here the German, or here what is talking. That's a part, a screenshot in 2 languages. We are working about a new version, the 2.0, with ChatGPT involved. Our Copilot will also in there. And then we not have only 2 languages, we will have 70 languages. That may be interesting. But anyway, you can also, if you are not allowed and do not have Teams, there is also a possibility with Bitly OneDrive bot, you have it on your machine, but it will not start. The thing is, if a user in Teams can show it to the admins, and then they have to say, here's the answer of the bot. That doesn't work, whatever, it doesn't work, and you can have it. And if you have always some new knowledge and you want to see what's files on demand, what's a flyout menu, what's move, what the parameters, I made some videos, you can have it also. If you need the slides, yes, you can work now. Make a picture of that, or remember HTTPS Bitly, and then OneDrive, as we describe it with the big D, 230810. If you know, hey, that's the date of today. And then you got a slide deck immediately. So that's the most important thing. Bitly OneDrive 230810. And last thing before I end, I write for Techie Gurus. That's a company in things for more technical stuff is in there about simplifying sharing, OneDrive, delete and restore. That's the articles where I have written down from here. That's the newest one, what will have changed. You can look for that. That is also information. I will not have it here. So before I have to say thank you, I have to look. We have now 8 minutes for question and answers.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Hans, for a great presentation and some great demos. So now we will get into the questions and answers session. So should you wish to ask a question, please feel free to type it into the questions window now.
Perfect.
So I just have a couple of questions in here. So the first question is, someone wants to know, are there any prerequisites that need to be in place before applying these group policies?
No. The first thing is, I mentioned it before, you have to have not a home version, you have to have a pro version for companies, then you have the group policies, and then you can have all this stuff. It's in there, the group policy editor is in there. You also have the things, all steps are there, but you need the slides, you have to look for there what I have to say. There are some inside the slides I never have shown because they are hidden, but you can see that. Therefore, you don't need anything.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Hans. So just another question then. Someone is asking, are there any potential challenges or pitfalls that administrators should be aware of when implementing these group policies?
Oh, the first thing is try it first on your machine. You have to implement it in your machine. Then you have to look where are the thing in the registry work as you normally work with these group policies, and you can step it only these OneDrive files on demand or this ring system or something else, only a small portion, and roll it out. If you can work with them, then the users also can work with them, but that you cannot change it. That's the only thing. Sometimes you have to read it. It's a good thing to read the slides, to read also the Microsoft information on this side. I also have the link in there. We have shown it. And if you read this stuff, then it's an easy part to handle that. Nothing else. But you first have to use it. And then if you work a little bit with them, and if you say, okay, I do not want to have it with OneDrive Personal, even if you have installed, you have to administer and say to the people, hey, we do not want to have it anymore for security reasons. Okay. And it's only the sync what happened, and that will end. But the data is still in the cloud, because all in OneDrive and OneDrive for Business, this data is still in the cloud. If the machine is going wrong, you have to say nothing else, take a new machine, the data is still there if it's synced, and therefore you can have all these stuff. Yeah, works perfect.
Brilliant, Hans. Thanks a million for answering that question. And there's another question here, and someone wants to know, do you have any recommendations about OneDrive policies and agreements to mention, definitely on a user adoption portal for Microsoft 365? The users will be introduced to new tools, OneDrive Teams and SharePoint.
The thing is, look for add a shortcut. That's for the next year or this year. The calendar year in Microsoft started 1st of July. So look for that. That's a preferred recommendation. Do that, and not only press the sync button. The sync button will, in the near future, disappear. Yes, it will disappear. It's still there, but it will disappear. The thing is, if you use it, OneDrive Files on Demand, you can use low-cost computers, because we do not have to have 1 terabyte of data or something else, because with files on demand, and it's the best thing what we ever have is there, and we can work with them. And that means, okay, only the files are locally available, always available. That is okay. That's on your disk. The content is free, and therefore you can work with a 128 gigabyte machine with Windows 11, and it works perfect. But even if you have 100,000 files, it's in the cloud. You do not have to sync all stuff. And files on demand, storage sense, but test your storage sense with your personal computer as an admin directly and see what happens. There are so many things we can do, but that must be work for that. For example, although I have one machine here and it's low on memory, I do a lot of other things. Although it's a Windows 10 machine and I have storage sense implemented, but not for the updates. That's a Windows 10 machine, and you know, each Tuesday, second Tuesday in the month, you have administration, you got some new files, you got some new updates and all updates, and nobody is killing the thing in there. I administer and have to say, okay, try the storage sense, although with local things. And then you see, wow, I have immediately after, let's say Windows 10, after 3 years, 60 gigabyte of data we do not use anymore. That's log files and something we do not need now. So for the update from all these stuff, and you know that. That's also very important. The rest you have to decide. It takes a little bit time, test it by your machine before you're rolling out.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Hans. So there's just one more question here, and someone is asking about OneDrive with RDS, Citrix, VDI, etc., environments and best practices.
That's not so easy. Because yes, you should do that, because if you use it on a VDI thing, you have to look for the stuff like files on demand is absolutely, but you have also look for the FS Logic things. That's a file system that gives you the information. For the other users, each user on the terminal server on a Citrix farm has a VGX file, means this will connect it if you log on. So all things like your OneDrive files or the persistent files from Outlook and all these Office things will be there. If you connect that, you can work. If you disconnect from the system, it will disconnect it for HDX. for the later use. Sometimes you have to look for that. It's not so easy, the part, because you can make a lot of things. If you do it on the right and taken not only on demand system, if you do it in the cloud, means you do it on a Windows Server 2019 in Azure, and you have installed the terminal server and all the other things with Citrix, and then you have SharePoint, and you can have it, then you only have to use for the files that the people should not use always on file, always available. Because why? You are in the cloud with your terminal, and it connects immediately with a very high speed to the cloud, means to SharePoint. Therefore, you can have click and the data are there. And there's no reason to say, okay, I need that. If you are on the row and you go there, because with your system, with a Windows device or an iPad or something else, and connect to the terminal server, this is the only information you need. Yeah? Only the screen will display it on your device, and all the things, if you say and put some information with your keyboard or your mouse or what else, this goes to the cloud. But the files are never come down, and therefore it's interesting, but it's a little bit complex to say we can do that in 5 minutes. That's only for small computers, and terminal server is not for small computers.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Hans. So that seems to be all the questions that we have here. So I might just wrap up the Q&A session there. But just on behalf of the ESPC community, we want to extend a huge thank you again to you, Hans, for taking the time today to carry out this webinar. We really do appreciate it. So that is the end of today's webinar. You can find this webinar and more at sharepointeurope.com/resource center. That is it for today, folks. Thanks again to everyone for joining us today. Take care, and we hope that you'll join us again for more learning. Goodbye for now.
Bye. See you next time.